India in the 16th century, an ancient land with a rich cultural heritage. But this land would soon become the battleground for control, trade, and ultimately, the birth of new nations. It all began with the arrival of the East India Company on December 31, 1600. Granted a charter by Queen Elizabeth I, the company's primary mission was trade, but over time, it sought more than just spices and silk. June 23, 1757. The Battle of Plassey. Robert Clive, leading the East India Company, defeats the Nawab of Bengal. With this victory, the company secured a foothold in India that would lead to centuries of British dominance. 3 years later, the Battle of Buxar further solidified British control, leading to the Treaty of Allahabad in 1765. The East India Company now had the right to collect taxes across Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, to regulate the company's expanding empire. The British Parliament passed the Regulating Act of 1773 and later Pitt's India Act in 1784. These acts laid the groundwork for British governmental control over India. But resentment was brewing. The Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the First War of Indian Independence, was a desperate attempt to throw off British rule. Although it failed, it led to the British Crown taking direct control of India under the Government of India Act of 1858. In 1885, the Indian National Congress was founded, marking the beginning of organized political resistance to British rule. Initially, the Congress sought moderate reforms, but it soon became the voice of Indian aspirations for self-rule. But the British were not yet ready to relinquish control. In 1905, Viceroy Lord Curzon partitioned Bengal, dividing the province along religious lines. The Congress vehemently opposed this move, seeing it as a divide and rule tactic. However, this event also led to the formation of the All India Muslim League in 1906, which sought to protect Muslim interests in a rapidly changing political landscape. In 1909, the Morley-Minto Reforms introduced separate electorates for Muslims, a move that was welcomed by the Muslim League but criticized by the Congress. This marked the beginning of a long-standing divide between the two communities. However, there were moments of unity. The Lucknow Pact of 1916 saw the Congress and the Muslim League coming together to demand self-governance. But this unity was fragile, as deeper communal tensions were simmering beneath the surface. The Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms of 1919 promised more self-governance but fell short of Indian expectations. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre that same year only fueled the fire of resistance. Both the Congress and the Muslim League were now pushing harder for greater autonomy. The 1920s and 1930s saw a rise in mass movements, with Gandhi's non-cooperation movement gaining widespread support. The Muslim League, too, was gaining ground, particularly after the collapse of the Khilafat Movement, which had sought to defend the Ottoman Caliphate. In 1927, the British government, led by Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, announced the formation of the Indian Statutory Commission, commonly known as the Simon Commission, named after its chairman, Sir John Simon. The Simon Commission was tasked with evaluating the effectiveness of the Government of India Act of 1919 and recommending further constitutional reforms. But there was one glaring problem. The commission consisted entirely of British members. Not a single Indian was included. This decision was seen as a grave insult by Indians across the political spectrum. The Indian National Congress, INC, and the All India Muslim League both condemned the commission, arguing that it was absurd to discuss India's future without Indian representation. In February 1928, the Simon Commission arrived in India, only to be met with widespread protests. Across the country, people took to the streets chanting slogans like, "Simon, go back." By 1940, the demand for a separate Muslim state was articulated in the Lahore Resolution, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The resolution called for independent states for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern zones of India. As the world was engulfed in World War II, the Congress launched the Quit India movement in 1942, demanding an immediate end to British rule. The British responded with a crackdown, and the Muslim League, wary of a Hindu-majority government, chose not to participate. The British government, realizing it could no longer hold on to India, sent the cabinet mission in 1946 to propose a plan for independence. But disagreements between the Congress and the Muslim League made a united India impossible. The situation reached a boiling point with Direct Action Day on August 16, 1946, which led to widespread communal violence. The push for partition was now unstoppable. On August 14, 1947, India was finally free. But the price of freedom was high. The subcontinent was divided into two nations, India and Pakistan. The partition led to the largest mass migration in history, with millions displaced and hundreds of thousands killed. The birth of Pakistan was the culmination of decades of struggle, negotiation, and sacrifice. It was a new beginning for the Muslims of the subcontinent, but it also left a legacy of division and pain that continues to echo in the region today.